Neal Battaglia, Saxophone.com. I help people who are learning to play saxophone sound better. So earlier this week, I was helping a student, and we were working on the etudes and exercises from Lenny Niehaus' book. And I'm talking about this book in specific. So it's the teal one. There's three versions of it. There's the red one, the teal one, and the yellow one. So beginning, intermediate, and advanced. We're using the intermediate book. In the beginning of the book, there are exercises, and then later in the book, there are etudes. Basically, they're kind of similar in a lot of ways, but the exercises tend to be slightly less musical and more exercises to make you improve on the saxophone. The etudes tend to be a little more musical. The exercises themselves actually sound pretty good for the most part, I would say. The ones from Lenny Niehaus, anyway. So what we were looking at was playing these with good time. They are swung, so that means that the first eighth note and the second eighth note, when you see patterns of eighth notes, the first one will be a little bit longer than the second one. It's kind of like 2/3 and 1/3. It used to probably be more like 3/4 and 1/4, but that sounds a little more old-fashioned. If you go back enough years, though, you might hear swing music more like that. And one thing about music that's swung is that in the rhythm section with the bass and the drums, especially with the drums, you tend to hear and emphasize 2 and 4. So if you're in 4/4, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 and 4 are kind of more accented, more emphasized than 1 and 3. 1 and 3 being emphasized is more like a march, or certain styles of music, those beats are emphasized, but not in swing music. It's more about 2 and 4. Actually, a lot of pop music has 2 and 4. What we actually did was we looked at a couple of pop songs, and one of them was by Pink, and it had a really strong like backbeat on 2 and 4, so you could really hear it. Just give me a reason, just a little bit's enough. And what you're doing when you're practicing to kind of make it swing better and make the rhythm line up better, make it phrase better, is to either think about 2 and 4 with the metronome, and if you're not playing, to snap on 2 and 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So kind of how that works though is like you have a measure of 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 is the second beat, 4 is the fourth beat. After 4 comes 1 in the next measure. So one thing you can kind of do without the saxophone is you can snap along with the metronome. You can snap along with songs that you hear where 2 and 4 are emphasized. So 2, 4, 2, 4. One thing you can do is just start by saying 2 and 4. So 2, 4, 2, 4. You're not starting with 1, you're starting with 2, and you're snapping on 4. After you can say 2, 4, 2, 4, try adding in the other numbers, the 1 and the 3, in between those numbers. So, and I would still maybe start off by saying 2 and 4. So the first thing you'll say is 2 with a snap. So 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you can't quite get that, an intermediate step would be 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So the 2, the 3, and the 4. Then you could add in the 1. So 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can get your metronome and you can set it for a tempo, like here it's 66 beats per minute. So we can think of the click. I think you can kind of barely see the flash and hopefully hear the sound. So there's a little light on here and there's a click. It's not super loud, which is a little bit hard to hear sometimes, but you can maybe get a metronome that's louder. You can maybe get an app and turn it up. You can look at the light. There are ways to kind of feel it. There's even metronomes that you can like put on your wrist. I got one of those. So 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically if it's at 66 beats per minute on the metronome and you're saying 2 and 4, that really means you're playing double that in terms of your actual tempo. So 66 times 2 is going to be 132, which is not super fast, it's not super slow either. If you want to kind of start by a little bit slower, you might bring it down to maybe like 50. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So being able to say 2 and 4, or to snap with 2 and 4, can be kind of a way to work on rhythm without the saxophone. And once you start playing the saxophone itself, you're going to have kind of a better sense of rhythm. If you can do it externally, you can transfer it to the instrument. So if you're saying 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, a next step could be to say 1 and 3, but snap on 2 and 4, but not say those numbers. 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. So basically you're alternating counting numbers with a snap. The snap stands for 2 and 4, but you're not saying it out loud. And part of what this is going to help you do is to think about not always playing something with the click and kind of using it as a guide. So for example, in the very first measure of the first exercise in the Teal book, you've got 1 as a quarter note on the downbeat, so that's going to be 1. The next beat is a rest, a quarter rest. That's going to be 2. You're not going to play anything. The next note starts on beat 3, and it's a dotted quarter note. And then the last note is on the and of 4, and it's an 8th note. So how you could count that would be 1, 3, and. So you've got the 2 and the 4 with my snap, or you could have it with the metronome. But you're not counting them out loud, and also you probably noticed that the 3 was held longer than the 1. So it's 1, 3, and. But the 2 and the 4 with the snap can kind of be a guide for you when you're playing. And when you're actually playing the saxophone, you can use the metronome like the snap would be. When you're counting, you can snap. When you're playing, you can have the metronome, possibly like a drum track or something else to help you keep time, or with the real drummer. So that first measure, we've got 1, which was the 2, then 3. The 3 kind of goes into beat 4. It's not 2 beats, but it's a beat and a half. That's what a dotted quarter note is, a beat and a half. A quarter note is 1 beat. The dot means multiply it by 1.5, so you get 1.5 beats. So it's 1, 3, and. But also the and comes right after the 4 snap, because it's 4 and. If you're going to count just 8th notes, it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if the 4 is a snap, it's and. So it's 4 and, but I'm not saying 4 out loud, I'm snapping instead. So for this first measure, it's 1, 3, and. If I'm going to play it, it's going to sound like. Let's set a metronome. So this is the tempo. 50 beats per minute right now, but think about it as 2 and 4, so it's really more like 100 beats per minute. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that seems maybe kind of simple, but you want to make it line up exactly right. Otherwise, it's not going to feel right when you play it. And if you're playing with other people, you might kind of miss a line, and it's just going to make everything messy. So I would maybe start by practicing this by saying the numbers out loud and snapping on 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. And basically, you can kind of subdivide the measure into 8 pieces, 8th notes. So 1/8 for each eighth note. And you can combine them. You can have kind of any combination. You could have a whole note, which is all 8 eighth notes combined as one note. You could have 2 half notes, which is like 4 eighth notes and 4 eighth notes as 2 notes. Or you could have quarter notes. Those are like 2 eighth notes together. You can think about the subdivision of the measure as 1, 2, 3, 4. But also notice I'm moving my hand up and down. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you're able to start on any of those places, the downs or the ups, and end in the right place, and then come back in the right place, that's actually a really big step in playing music accurately and making it sound better. If you can get downbeats and upbeats accurately, that's kind of moving beyond being a beginner and being more intermediate. It's not the be-all, end-all. You want to be able to play other rhythms. You need good tone. You need to know a lot of things. But getting downbeats and upbeats is kind of a really significant thing to be able to do when you're playing the saxophone and playing music in general. So for this first measure in the etude, 1, 3, and. If you can say that out loud and snap, it's kind of doing 2 different things at once. And then if you can transfer that to the saxophone with the metronome or with the drum set, 1, 1, 3, and. You're starting in the right place, you're holding the notes the right length, you're coming in with the next note with the right position in the measure, in time, and you're making it all line up with everything else. It's going to work with the bass, it's going to work with the drums, it's going to work in a bigger setting with music, and even if you're playing by yourself, it's going to make it sound correct. So anyway, I kind of want to talk more about rhythm. Kind of with my background is I learned a lot of counting with rhythms when I was in middle school. So I started playing saxophone when I was 11 years old. And our teacher, Gary Stotts, he showed us how to count rhythms. And we spent a lot of time on that. We wrote out different things with the rhythms. So we wrote like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And if you're going to write it down, you can use a plus sign for the and. And we got into 16th notes, we got into triplets, we got into different kinds of rests, we got the dots on the notes and different things. But kind of separating out the rhythm and working on that is one thing that can help you sound better on the instrument, because rhythm is such an important part of music. If you want to work more with me, like I'm working with my student with this book with the Lenny Niehaus exercises, you can do lessons on Skype. You can also check out Saxophone Tribe if you want to send in recordings and get feedback. But basically I can help you with your rhythm, I can help you with your tone, I can help you with different things related to playing the saxophone better. So check out what's available on SaxStation, and you can also join the Beginning Saxophone Players group on Facebook if you want to get a little bit of feedback each week.